this week with people letting me down, people who said they were there for me for this. But I had a very nice text from my friend, and she said, you know, your friends will be there, Vanessa, and, you know, we're all supporting you. And not only that, but you're very good at talking. So, you know, I have never done anything like this before, and I hope that you don't get too bored by it. And originally I was going to do the talk on my own, and then I met up with Alan again, and he said, oh, you know, maybe people are going to get a bit bored with you going on blah, 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 and why don't I host it? And I said, yeah, that'd be good. But I don't know what's happened, because I just had a text from him early this morning, and for some reason he feels he can't be here. So anyway, I'm here. Just reading from this now when it says the deeply upsetting story of Holly Greig. And one of the reasons that I felt for this is because I have a daughter, my lovely daughter Elizabeth, who is a similar age to Holly. Elizabeth has a few learning difficulties. She goes to a daycare centre, and she also has some physical difficulties. But one of the things that I learned when I went to the daycare centre was the humbleness and the beauty of the people. When you think the smiles on these people's faces when they were sitting in their wheelchairs, and they couldn't feed themselves and they couldn't do things, but the joy that they had, and it always made me feel guilty of if I ever moaned about anything. How could I moan about something when these people were sitting there and they didn't have much in their life, you know? It's good when you're feeling a bit down maybe sometimes to go and see how other people live. When you read some things, you think, no, this can't be true, this can't be happening. And so I read about the story of Holly Greig, and I don't know if any of you've either heard about her or have looked, if you've put it into Google, but I was pleasantly surprised to say that David Icke, it's on his website. When I was looking on the website, I was surprised to see that there's a fantastic article here, and I'm just going to read something from it, which was from the Palestine Telegraph, and it was written on the 25th of February, and it says that there has to be a point in our lives when we turn our backs on normal news and bring out the truth behind a gut-wrenching story that nobody wants to talk about or who may not be permitted to talk about. We at the Palestine Telegraph always want to bring out topics that no one else is prepared to print. The case of Holly Greig is one such story that will make you feel terribly sick inside, whilst at the same time wanting to bring those responsible to justice. I did a radio show the other day, and someone specifically asked me to investigate this sad story, probably knowing that I would do an article on it. One must feel the intense pain of Holly's mum and the ongoing nightmares that must haunt Holly, the innocent victim of a paedophile father and his ring of evil friends. This is not the first time I have heard of such abuse, especially in care homes, where children suffering from Down syndrome or other medical conditions have been repeatedly abused by the care staff. It is for this reason that I have broken away from my normal articles to reveal these horrific, evil paedophiles that contaminate our planet. What makes this case stand out is the fact that this abuse went beyond the Greig family and extended into the Grampian police force, who are there to protect us. I am sure by the time you have read through this extremely upsetting story, you will also want to bring these evil people to justice. So, who is Holly Greig? Holly lived in Aberdeen, Scotland. Her family consisted of Anne, her mother, Father Dennis, and brother Greg. It was back in 2000 when Holly told her mum something very disturbing that any mother dreads to hear, that she had been repeatedly sexually abused by her father and her brother. This abuse stemmed back to when Holly was 6 years old. Holly also told her mum that her brother Greg had also been abused by his father. We hear of such horror stories many times, especially when another member of the family is also abused, and that person then becomes part of the spider's web. But what is apparent in this story is that they tried to keep it quiet, and private investigators into Holly's situation have since revealed the presence of other paedophile rings in Scotland, and it became clear that senior authority figures in Scotland are prepared to obstruct the course of justice and allow the sexual abuse of such venerable members of our society to continue unchecked in order to save their own necks. I did mention it to my doctor about this case and asked her if she'd heard about it, and she said to me, well, no, she hadn't, but she thought that maybe it would be difficult for the Crown prosecution to bring something to court. But I see from this that despite no charges ever being brought, Holly received £13,500 compensation from the Criminal Injuries Compensation Authority in April last year. It is understood that a Grampian detective inspector described Holly as a truthful witness, to the best of her ability, and an entirely innocent victim. Mrs. Grigg, 58, claims her daughter has experienced nightmares and panic attacks since she first told her about the alleged abuse. And from my experience with people with learning difficulties, they don't know how to lie. It's not part of their makeup. I don't know if there's people here that experience this, but they just. Oh, well, I've got a friend who's his brother's Down syndrome, and I said, would you ever say that your brother lied? No. And you normally find that they have a look of innocence on their face, of pureness and everything. So when she was 6, that she had something wrong where she couldn't speak. Is that right? Yes? Yes. And so all these things went on. And I just hope that by people logging on to websites, by any literature that we have here today, that we can add to the voice of this campaign. Like I said in the invitation, that this is close to my heart because there's only myself as a carer for my daughter, and when I'm not around in the future, I really do worry what would happen. Anybody who's vulnerable, what happens to people in today's society? So I've made a pledge that I must lose more weight, not drink so much red wine, and keep as fit and healthy as I can for the future, because I really worry about the world that we're in and what's happening, and the financial state in the country. It's always the vulnerable that suffer. And Elizabeth, when she came home, I think it was today or yesterday, they put up the prices again at the daycare centre. Her lunch is £5. How much is it, Elizabeth? Sorry? It's 10p more, another 10p. But at one time they didn't have to pay for the lunch, but they have to pay for all these different things. But it does seem to me that it is the vulnerable in society, and that things happen. So I think something can happen in our lives, and I think it's wonderful that there is the support. It's very important. The things that have got me through my life have been always the support of my family and my friends, and today is a good example that, although I've had a few difficult days with people abandoning me, and I've got issues about abandonment, and I have to keep confronting these issues, of abandonment. But anyway, I'm still here to tell the tale. So please support what you can for this campaign. Go onto websites and please buy CDs. 5 years ago today, I found myself, it was Friday the 13th of May, and I found myself in a police cell. Actually, it was the night of, it was a Thursday night on the 12th of May, that I'd gone out for a meal with my friend Lily and another friend, and I was celebrating because I was walking away from my business. As I used to tell the people that used to work for me, I used to say, please make this business a stepping stone. Do not make it a career. And I'd got to that point where I'd formed a limited company, and I'd joined the Institute of Anti-Aging. I thought, this is a good idea, anti-aging, this will be very helpful. And I got it all planned. And I was going to take, in my mind, you see, Sue, I did this manifesting, but obviously I didn't put the right spell in, because I decided I wanted to write this book, and I thought, you know, I'll take 6 months out to write. I wanted 6 months away to write this book, but little did I know that the 6 months away were not going to be the 6 months I thought I was going to have in this wonderful apartment in San Francisco, but instead it was, I was to end up in prison. But at least I used it as a positive experience, because there's probably nothing better than a cell to focus one's mind, you know. You keep the outside world away. So I've always been able to manifest things, and like I said, I wanted to write this book, and I wanted somewhere suitable to do it, and obviously it was another bit to the book that was going to be quite interesting. So, you know, it didn't end up in San Francisco as I'd hoped, but I ended up in the cell instead. So what happened? We'd had 3 armed robberies altogether, and each time there was an armed robbery, I was never in the country. It always happened when I was away. And so anyway, I had this visit from the male and a female police people, and I was with a friend at the time, and anyway, they came to see me, and they asked me, you know, they wanted to know a bit more about me, although for years I'd cooperated with the police on many levels. But anyway, what they suggested, they looked around the place and they suggested that I got more security, and that I had an early warning system with all the other, we call them agencies in the area. And so, you see, I took this as a you're okay, Vanessa. In fact, I remember at the last robbery, there was this very nice older policeman, you know, actually a bit of like the touch of Frost with the moustache and everything. And but his sidekick actually had been a client a few weeks earlier. You know, we recognised him. And but anyway, the police, I said, I hope that, you know, this isn't going to go bad for us, because we've called you in, the police. And he said, oh, no, Vanessa, we're not interested in you. We just want to we just want to catch, like, the villains. And unfortunately, although I think they did get fingerprints and they got I think DNA, but they never caught the culprits. So this was January 2005, and I was happy, because I was doing, like I said to everybody, I was coming out of the business. I wanted to close down because I was worried about these robberies, but I had probably 30-odd people that relied on my business, and they were all happy, and they didn't want the business to shut down. So I thought I'd come up